Hi, this is Brandon Moon with Moonlit Fly Fishing. I want to welcome you to Fly Tying Night tonight. Tonight we're going to be tying up a parachute midge pattern. This one's going to be a kind of a tannish colored midge. Your top colors for midges are going to be black, tan, red, and olive. So for this I'm going to be tying you a tan colored midge. You can change it up and do a black with black microfibbets instead of the brown microfibbets that we're going to be using. So I'm going to put my hook in the vise, and I'm using the ML052 in a size 18. You can tie this in a 16 through 20, and the Tagata 102s are a great hook to use as well. So I'm going to get myself a nice long tag end. I'm going to start this thread roughly about 3/4 of the way up that hook shank. I'm going to use that tag end to create a nice smooth underbody and force that thread into each of the previous wraps to the bend of the hook. Then I'm just going to lift that thread up. I'm going to wrap underneath that thread 2 or 3 times, just to create a little bit of a bump there. Now I want this thread to lay on this other side of my vise so it doesn't wrap and tangle up in my thread. You'll see why I haven't cut that off yet. So here's my microfibbets. Again, I use black for the black, and I use this brownish rust color for the red, and I use an olive color for the olive. I want 4 of these microfibbets. So I'm going to get my 4 microfibbets just like that. Now I'm going to trim them out so that my tips are nice and even. Now we're going to measure this tail. I want this tail to be just a smidge longer than the length of the hook shank. I'm going to do a nice loose wrap 2 or 3 times. Then I'll make sure my microfibbets are on the very top of my hook shank. Tighten that down. Now I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to separate these 4 microfibbets. Now I've got a hold of 2 of them, so I can pull that in, pull it tight. Now I'm going to secure this down. So I secured down that thread. Now I'm just going to lock it in with a good couple wraps. Now that I've got that locked in, I'll trim this out to that 3/4 point. Wrap that down. Now I'm going to tie in my post. For my post I'm using Semperfli's Predator fibers. I like these because I can take just a small batch, whatever amount I need for my wings, and cut out a nice strip. And I've got all my wing material that I need for a batch of flies. So I'm going to trim that out. Now I'm going to lay that across that hook shank. Now I'm going to tie that in with a good couple wraps. Now I can pull that wing up. If I need to move it back, I can slide it back just a little bit. Now I'm going to lock it in with a couple wraps in front and a couple wraps behind it. Once I've done that, I'll pull this Predator fiber material or wing material, whatever I'm going to use for the post, up. And I'm just going to wrap up the shank. And I've noticed that if I get started and I put a nice secure lock wrap in there, it's going to help hold that wing material up for me so that I can wrap up. Now, I really don't want to go too far up this hook or up this post. I want to go roughly maybe about a, I don't know, I'd say an hook eye's length height. I can kind of play around with my tail just a little bit. Now I'm going to create a nice taper to my body, because I know it's small, thin body, but I want a little bit of a taper here. I'm just going to do that by going back and forth. And I have Semperfli's beige classic wax 12/0 thread. So now I've created that. I'm going to actually wrap this back to my tie-in point here. And I'm going to take just a gray alcohol marker. I'm going to take and mark up, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch to an inch of thread. Now I'm just going to create a nice segmentation to my fly here. Okay, you can see I've got nice even open wraps there to create that segmentation. Now for this fly, I'm using in the tan, I'm using Grizzly Coachman Brown, dyed Coachman Brown. I'm going to take my stem, and you can see I've cleared off the barbs, and I've created about a 1/4 turn that's clear. I've got the shiny side of this hackle towards me, so let's secure that down with 2 wraps over the top. Hold this hackle up as I wrap it around that shank. Now I'm going to take and secure that barb one last time there. Using Semperfli's Kapok dubbing tan. This is the highest floating fibers you're going to find on the market. It's finer than super fine. I'm going to take a nice small pinch like this, and I'm just going to create a nice little tiny dubbing noodle. Now I'm just going to take and wrap my thorax of this fly. I just want to make sure all of it's covered. I don't want it to be too big. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to wrap this hackle. I'm going to wrap this hackle with the shiny side down, so the barbs as I wrap kind of point upwards. I'm going to give it 2 to 3 wraps down that post. I'm going to secure it down with my thread. Now I'm going to take some Loctite super glue. This is the one with the brush. We sell this on the website. It's nice and easy. I'm just going to put a small little amount right there on my thread. I'm going to wrap this down. You can see I come up underneath. I'm going to give 2 wraps. I'm keeping that all under the barbs every time. Now I'll take my little snip tool on the end of my whip finish and snip that out. I like to use a razor blade when I'm cleaning that stem off of that. Now you can see it's actually a really clean tie. There's a couple fibers right here. Trim those out just a little bit. Now I'm going to take my post and I'm going to lift it up and just trim it out. Whatever length you want it at an angle, that's all personal preference. And there you have a tan colored Midge high vis parachute. Real effective pattern. Tie this in a black, olive, or a red. Just change up the color of hackle. On the black, I would use a grizzly. On the red, I even like this coachman brown on that red. So nice, effective pattern, very easy and quick to tie. So hopefully you're ready for winter this season. With that, we want to make sure and invite you to like your favorite videos, like this one, leave us a comment, hit the subscribe button and bell to receive future notifications. As we continue to work hard to put great content out, it's important to us and we appreciate your support. Have a wonderful night and we'll see you next week.